Hello, my name is Chandra Matafari, and I'm a health teacher at Novi High School, which is located in Novi, Michigan. And today I'm going to talk to you about successful lesson planning that helps us eventually track student progress. I don't know about you, but I have felt a lot of pressure coming down not only in my building, but from the state and society as a whole about how do I actually measure student progress and performance. Eventually, my evaluation as a teacher is going to partly be based on student performance in my classroom. And what does that actually look like? Personally, I have been teaching for about 15 years, and I have taught a variety of subjects at multiple grade levels. And every year that I teach and I come back, I look at how I can improve things. The first thing you need to do is kind of assess where you are. Whether you are a new teacher and you haven't done this before, or you've taught for a few years, or maybe you're a seasoned veteran teacher and you're feeling very overwhelmed at all of the changes that are coming down. I encourage you to locate your curriculum. This is a copy of mine, and I will show you another close-up later. Right now I'm just giving you a brief introduction overview, and then I will break apart how to do this piece by piece. My curriculum was located at the Michigan Department of Education website, and it's a little booklet. It also came in a PDF format, which I have copied multiple times. So that is something that you're going to want to locate. You're going to want to get multiple copies because we're going to be working together on how to actually track and use our curriculum and put it into place in our daily lesson plans. The next thing is, if you've been teaching for a while, you need to gather some sort of system that works for you to be able to organize your content. For me, I have found that using a binder approach for each lesson or unit works best for me. So I put all of my content for one lesson. This is my Introduction to Health unit. Everything is in here. And then as I go through this with you, I will show you that every topic then is tabbed, and I put all the originals in these binders. When you open up the beginning of the binder, you will see that the content and the lesson plans are here behind the state curriculum. So tearing apart what this looks like into here is going to be something I want you to think about. Now we're going to get started on actually getting started planning. And it takes a lot to kind of get going from the beginning of your course to the end. And it can often seem overwhelming. In the next couple of segments, I'm going to work with you on breaking down all of the steps to effective lesson planning. So as I stated in the introduction, we can kind of take all of those standards and benchmarks that we're required to teach on a daily basis and mark them all the way through our semester so we wind up at the end of the school year and we make sure that we have hit every standard. All right, so now we have to figure out how we lay out our calendar to get all of our units in from the beginning to the end for the semester. You can do some simple division, figuring out how many instructional weeks you have and plan out how many units are required by the state. For us, we have one additional unit that's not required by the state, which is our CPR unit. We have standards and benchmarks such as how to respond in an emergency, and there are multiple benchmarks on that. However, we have expanded the unit into actually a CPR unit where all of our students have the opportunity to not only get certified in CPR, but also trained in using the AED device as well. So literally what I have done is I have printed out a calendar in my Outlook from today's date all the way back to the end of the school year. Honestly, in Michigan, it's kind of been a rough winter, which no teacher will ever complain about a snow day, and we have had a few days of lost instruction. As I came back and I was kind of looking over my calendar, I realized also too we had ACT testing and a few other things that I had kind of didn't think about in my mental planning till the end of the school year. So what I did is I started and I went all the way to June and I printed out the calendar and I started penciling in days that are required for us from exam days, Memorial Day, and I actually just crossed them off because they are non-instructional days. And I think sometimes when I was a young teacher or even other teachers might think, well, I have 4 weeks left of school. They don't realize that that 4 weeks might not be a true 4 weeks. Maybe it's only 3 weeks. So I went through the last couple months and I marked out everything. And then I kind of realized that I was definitely down instructional days. Not to mention seniors this year are getting out 5 days earlier than they did last year, which makes a lot of sense for us for many reasons. But again, then I had to time that out because I had senior exams. In my health class, I have seniors that are in the class as well. So I'm going to have to juggle them getting the important curriculum, giving them their exam, and then kind of had to decide what unit could I just send them with some information on their way, and then they would depart for their summer. So once you have taken your calendar and you have marked out the days that you have, the next thing I recommend is getting some sort of post-it notes. And as you start to look at your units and you write them out, write the unit topics on your post-it notes. As I have done, your post-it notes, see, some teachers, especially me, once you kind of write something in a calendar, you feel the need to have to stick to it. That right there, to me, has created a lot of stress because there's built-in deadlines, and sometimes you need to have some fluidity within your calendar due to the fact of student achievement. Maybe you have to go back and retest something. Maybe they get something really fast that you didn't think that they would, or like I stated before, snow days or other things that come up. So I've taken all my unit topics and I have marked them with sticky notes. And this sort of gives me some flexibility where I can pick them up and move them around. Sounds kind of silly, but it does also help give me a visual that I know that in May I'm going to be doing my reproduction unit for about 2.5 weeks, and about the 22nd, 23rd, I'm going to start my nutrition unit. So it gives me a visual, it allows me some breathing room, and it allows me to mark out my units in this long-term planning way. Once I've done that, the next thing you really should think about is taking an inventory and looking at your content standards. For us, in our department, the standards or the strands or units, as some people call them, are not placed in the same order. So first thing I did, ripped them apart. And after I ripped them apart, I put them in and I organized everything in a binder format. So this is my social, mental, emotional health unit, and this one is my unit 1. After I break everything down, and if I was new to this for the first time, I literally would crack out my benchmarks and standards, and I would start to take an inventory in my head. Do I have this? Am I teaching this? Is this being covered? And I would highlight any holes in my mind that I know that I either am not addressing this or haven't in the past, or I could do a better job. When I went after and went over this, I realized that one of the things I needed to do is evaluate different personal health care products. In my class, I had talked about it, the students had talked about different healthcare products that they had used, but they didn't really go home and take out their products that they're using, from their lotions to their makeups, look up ingredients, rate it, and I realized after really doing a self-check with this and an inventory that I had to redo that assignment and make it better and more meaningful to them. So take an inventory of your standards after you have laid out your pacing guide. Now we're going to talk about how we fill in daily lesson plans and start to establish some sort of a unit outline. I'm going to pull apart an earlier unit in Unit 1 and show you some different combinations of lesson plan pages that I've made. All of these will be available on my website if you are looking through this through the Galileo project, and it will be connected to this YouTube video. With that being said, I took and I printed up weeks. And in the weeks, this literally was week 1, which started on Labor Day, week 2, week 3. And I did about the first 5 weeks off of my Outlook calendar page. So I did some rough estimates here of where I would be, and then I transferred them on to my lesson plan, which was a week. Another thing I've realized after about 10 years of teaching, and I gave it up a few years ago, is I got rid of that standardized lesson plan book that people had given me when I started teaching. That lesson plan book for me had 6 squares. It was mapped out into a school day, but some teachers have various preps, and it honestly was not meeting my needs. And I felt really constricted to this little box. So I designed my own plan. So within it, I have my week, days, but then I also have the standards. And so as I'm teaching each lesson each day, I can go back and I know exactly what standard is covered every day. This helps me to be able to kind of cross-check my list, my curriculum, that they're all being covered, and it also lets me know about how far I am along in my pacing. So each unit, I basically sit down with my calendar, I look at my standards, I look at my unit daily plans, and I go from there. And I know about the timing I need to do.